Terrorist Abdul Benbrika, the first Australian citizen to be stripped of their citizenship while serving detention on shore, could be deported, according to an exclusive in The Australian today. The former al-Qaeda terrorism cell leader has had his visa cancelled by the Albanese government after his continued residency in this country caused headaches for multiple governments for close to 20 years. Let's bring in journalist, associate editor of The Australian, Ellen Whinnett, joins me now. Ellen, so at what point do you think we could finally get rid of this convicted terrorist, and is the only chance if Algeria decides to take him back?
Well, I think it's going to come down to how he goes in the High Court, as well as the matters that he's got running through the Supreme Court in Victoria. He also has an appeal in the High Court against the stripping of his citizenship. Now, as we know, the citizenship laws have come unstuck earlier. He's a different case because he's been convicted in an Australian court, but it is possible he could win that case and have his citizenship returned.
What is the Albanese government's submission here? Claire O'Neill hasn't come out publicly, hasn't given on the record comment. So what is Claire O'Neill, and she's the Home Affairs Minister in the Albanese government, what is she proposing? How is she handling this?
Well, it appears that his visa to remain in Australia has been revoked under Section 501 of the Migration Act, which has been used many times in the past to deport bikies and sex offenders. I don't know that we've seen it before for convicted terrorists. So this is almost a plan B or a plan C. Dealing with Abdul Nacer Benbrika has been very problematic over the years. This is the latest move. There was a court case today that discussed this. The Supreme Court in Victoria heard that now there was some confusion as to whether he would remain in Barwon prison or whether he would go into immigration detention, and if so, what that facility would be.
So if he did leave the country, we understand that he wouldn't be able to come back in unless, of course, Australia strikes some deal with Algeria to have him. What do you think the chances are of that? And I noticed that you did put comment in to the Algerian embassy before you were preparing your story for today.
I've tried for several years to get the Algerian embassy to tell me if they're prepared to accept Benbrika. He came to Australia in 1989 on a tourist visa. He overstayed that visa. Eventually, he fought for 6 years through the courts to remain in Australia. So he has been in the past pretty determined to be here. He spent the last 18 years in jail, 15 of those serving a sentence and 3 years under a continued detention order. That was legislation that was basically brought in to keep him in jail. Now he's likely to go on an extended supervision order where people can keep an eye on him in the community. I think ultimately the government would like to get rid of him. I'm just not sure they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, look, fascinating. He has been so desperate to stay in Australia, seeing as when he was convicted in 2005, it was for planning terror attacks on landmarks in Melbourne and Sydney. So you'd think someone who loved this country so much wouldn't want to have blown it up. Ellen Whinnett, thank you very much for your reporting, and great to see you this evening.